Ladies and gentlemen, friends of all ages, welcome back to the Cross Commission Podcast. I am Jake Nazar. I am joined tonight by my good friend Safe Fakadu. Safe, how you doing?
Jake, feeling good. Ice is melting. You can actually walk around free.
Touch some grass.
It's just like those ads, for pharmaceutical where people just like running through the fields.
I deliberately left in the StreamYard. I deliberately left the title of this like blank because I didn't really have one that came to mind. I think I got it. It's gonna be touch some grass.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You can go out, put your feet on the ground, touch some grass.
Every day I see less and less. I'm just like that, the Star Wars video. I'm like, more.
It's awesome. It's awesome. We love to see it. We've got a pretty good slate on our hands for this coming weekend. We had a good slate. Pardon me. Last weekend, with some big games, a 1v2 game, obviously, and some kind of surprising results, I would say. And we've got another pretty darn good slate to follow it up and hopefully kind of continue. Feels like we're getting into the thick of things with the season. Should be every Notre Dame. I don't know if the Georgetown game was originally scheduled for indoors, but they've announced it's outside at Arlotta on Sunday. They bumped the face-off time back an hour. It's going to be at 12:30. Not on TV still, on ACC Network Extra, but nonetheless, outdoors at Arlotta for the first time this year. Notre Dame, Georgetown, that should be great. That's number 4 versus number 7. We've got number 3 versus number 13 with Carolina and Hopkins. That's on Friday to get us started. We've got a top 20 matchup between Cornell and Denver. We've got Maryland and Princeton. So a lot of good stuff coming at us. This weekend as we continue trying to see if we can get a hold on this 2026 season. I think we know a little bit. Obviously, we know who the number 1 team is as of right now. It's Syracuse after the big win over Maryland. They got all 22 first-place votes in the media poll this week. Let's see. I think we're going to know a little bit more after this weekend. Then it's a huge slate next weekend for the last weekend of February. So exciting stuff. Safe, let's start there. Let's talk this week's poll. I'll pull it up. And for those of you who are watching this on YouTube, big number on the last Power Hour on Saturday. We love to see it. So thank you for all those of you who have joined us, new listeners, old listeners. It's a fun time. We're going to do it again this Saturday at what's the latest? Probably the same time, I would say. I think the latest game this weekend is Cornell and Denver at like 2 or 3. So probably 5:30, 6 o'clock, somewhere around there again. I don't think there's any big Olympics on at that time. So should be all set for another fun slate. So definitely make sure you're liking these videos on YouTube, subscribing, youtube.com/crosscommission. Let me share my screen so I can get the poll up here. And if you are listening the old way on the audio podcast, I'll just make sure to give you as much color as I possibly can. All right. Syracuse is number 1. They were number 1 in all of our ballots this week. Maryland was number 2 in all ballots. So we have a clear 1 and 2. Maryland just drops 1 spot after the loss. Georgetown is number 3 on 4 of 5 ballots for us. North Carolina number 4. Notre Dame number 5. Richmond, after that big statement win over UVA, is up to number 6. Cornell's at number 7 in our poll. Penn State jumps back into the top 10 after the loss to Villanova last week, but they had a big one over Princeton. Princeton's down at number 10. Then we've got a pretty tight group of 4 teams here. Army at 11, Ohio State at 12, Hopkins at 13, Harvard at 14. I didn't mention Harvard-Cuse this weekend, too. I'm excited for that one. I think Harvard's had a promising start to the season. Then we have Virginia drop down to 17. Villanova, as soon as they walked in, they walk out after losing to St. Joe's. So that'll be for Villanova. BU back in at number 20. 4 teams receiving votes this week: Jacksonville, Sacred Heart, Drexel, and Lehigh. In comparison with the Inside Lacrosse Media poll, they have Syracuse in 1, Maryland 2. They have Carolina at 3, Georgetown at 4. Very tight, 3 through 6. Carolina, Georgetown, Cornell, and Richmond. We're a little lower at Cornell than IL is. They got Ohio State at 9, Penn State 10, Princeton down at 12 after that tough loss. Hopkins 13, Harvard 14, Virginia 15. Albany's at 20 in their poll. Probably will be moving out this week after a really nice win for Penn last night. Taylor Ray's first win for the Quakers. If you're listening to this on audio, Safe is beaming. The Penn stocks are currently looking better than my Yale stocks.
It's just like boiler room. We're just pushing that stock. Shout out to Ray being the newest member of the SCC, the Safe Coaches Club, along with Madeline and Bobby Benson.
The SCC. Sounds like a regulatory commission.
So absolutely.
The SEC.
We have vast investigative powers.
It sounds like a bit. It sounds like a bit we do towards the end of the year for a team. The SEC is currently investigating. We're investigating for possible irregularities and fraud. That was what they did at Princeton in 2016. The SEC went in and investigated at the end of the Bates era. Mass underachievement, dissatisfaction.
We made our recommendations.
Bad PR. We recommend a swift transition to
start all over. Yeah.
Bump Madeline up to the first row seat. Oh man. Safe. Any thoughts on the poll?
I didn't lose all faith in Princeton, even especially after that first half.
I still have him in the top 10. Yeah, I still have him in the top 10.
Exactly. I just couldn't I thought maybe 11 was appropriate just because you can't lose like that at home, especially just the way they did the first half without some hit to your position. I felt like 11 was reasonable, and it ended up being 10, and I think IL poll had them at 11 or 12. So I think pretty much a lot of people felt appropriate. You got to have a step back and. But I love the variety and the also receiving votes because Jacksonville, you and I had put it in our top 20, and being 1 and 2, that's a hard 1 and 2. One goal loss. So.
Maybe the best 1 and 2 team we've ever seen.
Exactly. And then the tough game against North Carolina, and I feel like they. Maybe sneaking, maybe get a little upset. I'm not predicting that. Them upsetting Duke, but it kind of feels like a year maybe Jacksonville would do one of those nice victories over a top team. And we kind of feel like it's bubbling. There's going to be some upsets.
Yeah, I think that's interesting to monitor. There feels like there's a big upset lurking here somewhere. I don't know where, and maybe more than normal. I feel like maybe there's upsets and there's upsets. I don't know when the last time is we had I guess maybe Penn State Colgate a couple years ago, that first week, and Colgate was unranked. Penn State was in the top 5. Trying to think of other ones of late. I don't know when the last time Duke lost but there's always with Duke, there's you kind of I guess maybe anticipated a little bit. It's not terribly uncommon for them to lose a big regular season game, but I don't know. It feels like there's a potential big upset lurking. I think Jacksonville. I mean. The way they played defense the first 2 games of the year, it's a Duke offense that's shown some positive signs to start, but I do think this is a step up in competition for them with the way Jacksonville's played defense. Jacksonville can win face-offs at the kind of rate that we've seen, or the success we've seen them show so far. I mean, against Lemoyne, which they dominated, they blew them out. They won 16 of 25, but we talked about how really impressive it was against UNC, against Brady Wambach. They won 12 of 24. They split it 50-50 in that game. And then they won the majority of faceoffs against Rutgers as well. So they've got the kind of balance, so at least so far, that could make an upset possible. So yeah, I think that's definitely one to monitor. It's one thing to play. It's one thing to play a top 20 team close once. It's another team to do it twice against a better team in UNC than Rutgers. Now winning is a different story. So I thought there's no moral victories, but sure, I think that's definitely a interesting game to keep an eye on.
Yeah, for the most part, I feel like top 10 is we're really our top 6 and really is a core group of like Final Four contenders. This how Cornell had a bit of a struggle with Albany, and then Albany losing to Penn at home like gives a little bit pause. And Penn State, having lost to Villanova, but then turn around and beat Princeton at Princeton. That pretty much that 6-7 like separation, like that top 6. I really feel pretty good about those teams in terms of like the possibility of like actually having a really strong regular season and deep postseason run. Pretty much any run from 7 to like 13, quarterfinals, maybe a reasonable like goal for all of them, but just a little bit of question mark of like whether or not.
I think that's what kind of makes it interesting is if we just go with our top 6 in our poll: Syracuse, Maryland, Georgetown, UNC, Notre Dame, Richmond. I think I feel like those teams are the ones I probably feel the best about in terms of making a run. Like I second your thought, but I think when you look below that, that's a lot of teams there with Final Four type expectations. I mean, you've got Princeton in there for sure. Obviously, I mean, national championship type expectations. Penn State, I think, has, that's kind of a reasonable goal for. I mean, maybe it's not expected of this year's team, but it's on the table considering what they've done the past couple of years. Cornell definitely would love to get back there. I mean, they're the defending national champion. And then, you got Duke. Ohio State down at 12. I mean, that was obviously the Van Buren injury, you could argue kind of changes some things, but that certainly was their hope going into this year, was a Final Four. So, yeah, I think you have to get past 12 to get into teams where maybe it's like we're just looking for a better year than we had last year, get in the tournament. Like Hopkins, we'll see. I mean, if Hopkins beats UNC this weekend, maybe it's different and their expectations change. I still think overall the goal is get back in the tournament and, maybe make a quarterfinal. Virginia, I think, is similar. Get back in the tournament, make a quarterfinal. Harvard, maybe a little more, but I think generally, I think, definitely. I mean, look, Harvard hasn't. Has Harvard ever won a tournament game?
Not recent, like at least, I remember the 2016 year they were seeded and they lost at home. Right, wasn't it?
2014.
2014. Yeah. I don't think they've done anything.
1996 is the last time they've won 2. They won in 1990 and 1996. That's the only time they've won. So 2 tournament wins in
36 years.
The history of the program, which goes back to like the late 1800s. Obviously NCAA or 70. So yeah, if Harvard got to a quarterfinal, that'd be huge. Denver, similar idea, trying to get back to the NCAA tournament after what happened last year. So yeah, I think that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes right now so fascinating. Is you've got a lot of teams who I think, and if we do take it remember there was that big discussion at the start of the year where we talking about, is it a wide open type year? Is it anybody's ball game? We kind of push back on that a bit. So far, I think that this data suggests it might be a wide open type season. We'll have to see what materializes in the next couple of weeks to kind of be more sure. But if that's the case, then there's a lot of teams who probably feel like the Final Four, that type run is on the table. And so you've got a lot of teams trying to, as we always talk about, make where they can, get these big quality wins when the opportunities present themselves. All right. Let's go over just the results from yesterday, just to kind of and today, just to kind of run it down. We talked about Penn beating Albany. Really impressive win for the Quakers. Year one or Taylor Ray. Penn. I mean, how about you got to be real with it? How about the offense? Uh, 15 goals in the win. Last year, they scored more than 10 goals on only 5 occasions all season. Do they score more than 10 goals? Last time they scored 15 would be against Harvard in late 2024. Last time they scored more than 15 would be against Yale on April 1st, 2023. They scored 17. So back when Sam Hanley still was on the field for the Quakers. So, I mean, that's a real positive upshot. I mean, the offense so far, the Georgetown game, they got 9 and against the Good Boys defense. Davis Provost, who was a kind of a quiet, maybe a lone bright spot you could sort of describe last year for them. He had 17 goals and 7 assists in his kind of as a sophomore, his first real time as a starter. Now he's a junior. He had 4 goals and an assist for them. Jackson Marr had 2 goals and 3 assists for 5 points. Jackson Marr was a big time recruit for Penn. It's been a while now. He was a big time recruit in there. I would say going back, I'm trying to find exactly what class he was in. Because he's been there and kind of where was he? What was the last? Or was it? Is he a freshman? I just could have swore he been there. No, class of 2025. Yeah, he was a 5-star. Kind of one of the big names that they have brought in recently. I guess I was thinking of someone else. But 2 goals, 3 assists. Really good performance. Both facilitating and scoring. Griffin Skane's been on the block. He had 4 goals. So some real positive performances for the Quakers. And again, I thought against Georgetown, all things considered, Provost played really well against Georgetown as well. All things, again, considered, I mean, this is probably as good a start as you could ask for. And, I think this is why you hire Ray, obviously, is his background is as a defensive guy. That's kind of what he's known for, but he routinely recruited good players to St. Joe's, and he ran an offense that caused problems. And I think when you hire a defensive coach, you obviously want them to be good on defense. That's the identity. But I think what you also want is kind of, we see this more often, I think, where it's talked about more in college football, but it's that I think you want a defensive coach to run an offense that he feels would cause him problems. That's what you ideally want out of your defensive coach. Is he's like, sometimes you'll see defensive coaches can be a little conservative and can maybe sometimes turtle a little bit by nature. Ray, I think, is from that different mold, that he kind of looks at it as, all right, what's the thing? What would cause me, if I'm thinking as a defensive coach, what would cause me problems? What gives me headaches? I think he kind of he coaches to that. Obviously, at St. Joe's, it was a bit about the talent. He went out and got the Canadian, different guys. Penn, you figure, would be more of a traditional recruiting base potentially. But I think that's part of why you hire him, is that even as a defensive coach, he goes out and produces good offenses and is willing to play aggressive and score goals. So certainly a good start there.
And his ability to always form a competitive or replacement level team, no matter how much of a loss. That's the one thing I always was so impressed. That's kind of why I was so high on when they picked him. That Penn is routinely at St. Joe, just monster senior classes. We've gone through their lack of success in getting the tournament. Though they broke in towards the end, but getting a team up for the next season despite a loss of all-time scorers, just great players in program history, and just always seem to like never like have a really like bad year. I think we looked at things like maybe like one sub 500 year, maybe two this entire time, but it's just like consistently always.
He has
Even if the cover was ostensibly bare, given the talent that had graduated, always seemed to like have people be ready to step up for those roles. And I think that's just like, evident of like how good of a coach he is in terms of like getting everybody to buy in and, always, have the next man up type of mentality. Like I said, it just obviously have a Ray in favor of him, so it may color my analysis. But like I said, I always impressed what he did at St. Joe's. Just always a consistent winner, always like regular season, having strong conference play, having decent out of conference like schedule, and it's like always, just seemed like a steady coach and could always produce a winner. So I'm happy to see that seems to be happening at Penn as well.
Yeah, since 2014, when they joined the NEC, they've averaged 10 wins a season. Over 11 years. They've had one losing season and only 2 seasons under 500. It's 11 and 12 wins from 2014 to 2016. Dropped down in 2017, but came back with 11 wins in 2018. 500 year in 2019, and then of course, coming out of COVID, 54 wins in his last 5 years is pretty nuts. And yeah, the conference. We've done this, numerous times. The conference record, it's like over his entire time, it was 57 and 21. Over his last, after the NEC, because he started 1-5 and 1-5 in the CAA, it was 55 and 11 from the NEC and then into the A10. So the guy wins, and looking like potentially they have the chance to do that again in an Ivy League that I think the top 3 is probably really strong, but that 4th spot, is probably very much up for grabs. Yale got it last year and they were 5-8. I still kind of feel like Yale has a chance to be a better team this year. I think they will be. I think that 4th spot will be competitive, but Penn looks pretty primed for it, and they've got. And they're look. They play a tough schedule, and they got Delaware next, which you figure is a win. Considering how Delaware starts, then they have that ACC little double dip against UNC and Cuse, but they get them both at Franklin Field. So there's opportunities there. They've got Georgetown, UNC, Cuse, Harvard, Cornell, all come to Franklin Field this year. So a nice.
I may try to go over a Triple Crown that weekend. If I get out of work, I'll definitely go to Princeton, Syracuse. But I could go to Georgetown, Hopkins. But I did, I'm going to Georgetown, Ohio State.
Are you gonna come back? Are you gonna go back on Sunday and do?
Well, and my boy went to Syracuse. We were going to try to do something in Trent, and I was like, Syracuse is playing at Penn, and I was like, Penn's going to have a pretty decent team. This was before the Albany win. Now I'm even more excited for the game. But yeah, that Sunday, I just take a train to Philly from Trenton.
The safe triple back to back. Throwing heat.
And then Syracuse right after with you the weekend after. So I was like,
oh,
it's going to be like kind of like a, they've Grateful Dead. Like I'm just following Gateful Dead. That's what it's called me.
You should start just going live. Just start interviewing people. You start interviewing people just at all these locations.
We're using a lot of our Instagram account a lot, so live and in color with your boy. Safe. Should be great. Yeah, I was thinking it'd be kind of fun. Three different stadiums in 3 days.
Absolutely should just start interview people. It'd be sick. All right, some other scores. Mount St. Mary's 13, Queens 10, Bucknell 16, Iona 8. Not a bad start to the year for the Bison. A 3-1. Lost a little close one to Robert Morris, but they beat Manhattan. They beat St. Bonaventure. They beat Iona by quite a bit. They won by 6, 9, and 6 in 3 games. So nice start to the year for Bucknell. Speaking of St. Bonaventure and Robert Morris, St. Bonaventure beats Robert Morris 14-11 for the Bonnies. Robert Morris, not a great start to the year. Siena beats Binghamton 14-5. St. John's 20, Quinnipiac 8. Dave, didn't we do a thing about how we thought Quinnipiac might be decent this year on the
Bobcats. I'm an eternal Bobcats. Well,
it's a long season. Mercyhurst 10, Canisius 8, Monmouth 15, Wagner 7. Notre Dame scored 29 goals against Bellarmine. Wow. Yikes if you're Bellarmine. A grand total of 16 goal scorers for Notre Dame. Man, they had 10 goals in the first quarter. Did they score on every possession? I mean, how many possessions could they conceivably have had in the first quarter? I guess if they're scoring every time down the field. Gotta look this up. Notre Dame versus Bellarmine. Let's go to Lax reference.
Yeah, exactly.
They scored 29 goals on 52 possessions for the game.
Oh my God.
Which is 56%. In the first quarter, 10 goals on 14 possessions. That's 71%. In the fourth quarter, they scored 8 goals on 10 possessions. And they slowed down in quarters 2 and 3 with 11 goals on 28 possessions. For the game, Bellarmine shot 43% themselves. Notre Dame had 64 shots to Bellarmine's 23.
That's like, percentage-wise, Bellarmine did all right.
Bellarmine shot 43%, offensive efficiency 32%. Granted, again, they scored 9 of their 10 goals in the second half after they were down 16-1. But yeah, man.
Minus 17 adjusted possession.
It's not going to do it.
But when they had the ball, they did. 38.7%. Like, I'll take. Yeah, anyone will take that.
Yeah. Competition gets stiffer for the Irish this weekend against Georgetown. Navy 19, VMI 12 in Annapolis. Midshipmen are 2-1. Harvard 17, Colgate 8. Harvard's defense so far. I mean, Colgate and Providence are two pretty good offensive teams, and Harvard's defense at this point has given up single digits back to back. The face-off play against Colgate, it was 14 of 28, and I believe they were 50% against Providence as well. 10 of 18. That's all Harvard's looking for. Harvard hasn't been above 50% facing off in a long, long time.
They really don't need much. Just make a game of it. Yeah.
So I'm excited. Cuse going to Cambridge, February 21st. Is that where are we on the earliest Cuse games outdoors of all time? Is that earlier or later than the Maryland game last year? I think it's
right around the same time. Maryland was a little earlier?
Maryland game was a little earlier. It was February 15th. Yeah, so it's still pretty close. One of the earlier Cuse outdoor games ever. It's start of Cuse. What is it? 6 games?
I was just going to say it. The Odyssey?
Yeah. Ryan is Telemachus. just waiting for them to come home. Who's Matt Dave? Who's Odysseus? Is Spalina Odysseus?
Yeah, Spalina or Gate? Yeah.
Spalina or Gate?
I guess they're the leader. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we got to go with that.
Yeah, so Gate, I guess, is Gary Gate is Odysseus. Oh, man. Who's the Cyclops in this analogy? Is it... Maybe it's that... I think it's that Denver game. It's that Monday night Denver game behind the RV. On 4 days.
The Matt Brown trap. Yeah, that was literally
8 p.m., 6 p.m. Mountain Time. 4 days after they play Air Force. Oh, man, we always thought about those military academies, Dave. Following it up with Denver 4 days later. Yeah, Syracuse's Odyssey. Oh man. Yale 15, Marist 9, and Drexel. The Dragons are 3-0. They beat Lafayette 9-8. Drexel Albany this weekend. Drexel's trying to go to 4-0. Albany trying to avoid going 0-3. Drexel, they got Albany, then they got Mercer, who's kind of Villanova, St. Joe. I mean, these are some tough tests, but there's a chance for a real strong start to the season. I mean, Drexel doesn't play a game outside of. Speaking of the opposite of Syracuse's Odyssey, Drexel doesn't play a game outside of Philly until March 28th. Because I think their only road games in that stretch are against Philly schools.
Masterful schedule construction by Coach Boyle. Absolutely.
Yeah, they got home to Albany, home Mercer, home to Villanova, at St. Joe's, home to Monmouth, home to Fairfield. So only road games. That's like the old Desco schedules. Yeah. Like the road game would be against St. John's or something like that. Or Colgate. Yeah, how about that? 6 straight games in the city of Philadelphia for the Dragons. All right, Safe. We got a lot of good games on tap here. Starts Friday evening, happy hour, 5 o'clock, Hopkins, Carolina on ACC Network. It continues Saturday. You've got Army, Michigan. I didn't mention Army, Michigan. That's this one at 12 o'clock. That's in Atlanta. Princeton-Maryland, 12 o'clock in College Park. Hughes, Harvard, 1 o'clock in Cambridge. All those are streaming games. Cornell, Denver, 2 o'clock. Is that a Midco exclusive? Cornell for the freaking Midco. God damn it. They got it.
That's a boiler room operation.
Oh man. It's Cornell, Denver, and then we close it out 12:30 on Sunday with Georgetown and Notre Dame. Where would you like to begin, Safe?
I mean, yeah, a good amount of time for Hopkins, North Carolina. But yeah, I guess Georgetown, Notre Dame. I do remember 2 years ago. I put a little bit on Georgetown to win, and my mom was coming to visit, and my reaction was just like she had never seen me act like that before. Just absolutely, I was like, "Is this what happiness is like?" Like, it's when you find something and just feel it, and it actually happens. I was just like, "Oh man, should be a good game." I mean,
yeah, I hope so.
I think Notre Dame will have their hands full with the Connors. I mean, that looks like if that was our first game as a preview of what we should see this year, that's going to be a dynamic too. Obviously, with the brother connection, have played together, they just have this ability to know where the other one is. I'm sure, without even actually seeing each other, just kind of have this innate connection, and it would just be really interesting to see, and I think a really tough game for Notre Dame. This isn't the glamour teams that we've had over the last 3-4 years for Notre Dame. Not that there's a lack of talent there, but it's going to be, I think, one where I don't know if DraftKings has the lines up, but I would venture to say that Georgetown's favored in this one.
No, I would. I'd be very surprised. In South Bend, I'd be very surprised.
You're a good point about that. But
I would say Notre Dame 1.5. That would be my guess. Let me see if I can find it. Crosse, college lacrosse.
Yes. Notre Dame favored 1.5.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. So
what's the over under?
24.5.
That's a tough one. How often have those two teams gone over 24.5?
I don't feel like
2025 under Notre Dame 11, Georgetown 9. 2024 under Georgetown 11, Notre Dame 10. In the NCAA tournament, they went over. Notre Dame won 16-11. That game was kind of out of hand in the second half. 2023, Notre Dame 15, Georgetown 8. So that's under. 2022, Georgetown 16, Notre Dame 11. So they've done it twice in the past out of 5 times This one's tough because the thing Georgetown would love with the game against Penn is that Liam Connor has 5 assists, has only 1 turnover, has a big impact in the game without needing to really score. You feel like that's got to be the recipe again against Notre Dame, because how much of an impact do you think he can have on Sean Light? I don't think he's going to be scoring too much. Now the question is, Notre Dame's not going to slide to Liam Connor when Sean Light's on him. So where does Rory Connor get his separation? Where do these shooting opportunities come from? He can create some for himself, but it's not really his game. How does Georgetown go about creating those opportunities for him when no one's going to slide off of Rory Connor on Notre Dame to double team Liam? Now, this is where I would probably say it needs to be a lot of picks and 2-man games behind the cage, things like that, to try and force better matchups and to try and force potential slides. No, but Notre Dame's not a sliding team in general. It's just not how they run their defense. So in that case, it's probably going to be setting up picks and 2-man games for him to then attack somebody else and dodge and maybe get his scoring that way. So I do think it's a game where maybe I think they might need him to do more scoring. I just don't know. I don't know where he gets his assists from. If there's not going to be a lot of, I don't know how many open guys there's going to be on there. Notre Dame's just not going to slide. I think it looks a lot probably like what Maryland Cuse did last week, where Maryland scored 9 goals, and I think like 8 of them were unassisted. Pardon me, 8 of them were unassisted. Syracuse just wasn't sliding to anybody. So Notre Dame's going to make Georgetown earn it. And I think for Liam Connor, it's going to have to be a game where it's like any time that he doesn't have Sean Light on him, he's got to go to the goal and make it happen. And he's got to get his. And sometimes maybe he's just got to try and get his anyway on Sean Light. You could try and do what Spallina did against Light, where Spallina really kind of played him and forced him to kind of come out and sort of played him away from the goal, and then tried to set up ball movement and dodging for other people. And I think in general, this is a game where the depth of scoring is going to tell the answer. I think Notre Dame is a tricky. With Notre Dame, it's so many new faces. Who does Georgetown put Ty Banks on? Maybe this is an advantage potentially for Notre Dame. I mean, it's a younger group, but also it's a group that you just don't really have much film on. You're not really totally sure. I guess Yago would probably get Ty Banks. He's the most proven commodity. I think Matt Jeffrey definitely has to command one of your best polls. Kind of his pedigree at the high school level, and he's had a good start to the season. I think it's going to be one of those get past the attack, get into the midfield, and that's kind of always been Notre Dame's real secret sauce, is their ability to run a lot of their offense through their midfield. And guys like Angrick and Maharis, and those pieces who can have a big, a big impact for them. Booze and Kill, those types of guys, I think, are probably going to be the ones. This doesn't strike me as a game where, if any one of them, if Yago has a big game or if Liam Connor has a big game, I think that probably tilts the balance. But I think it's going to be a game about the other pieces involved, and short stick defensive midfielders. I feel are going to be big in this game. Notre Dame was pretty darn thin last year in their short stick defensive midfield group. Ben Ramsey felt like he played every single shift at times. I remember that Penn State game. Ben Ramsey rarely came off the field. Like Ramsey and Donovan in that Penn State game almost never came off the field in that fourth quarter. And now Ramsey's gone, so you have a hole there. Is who's your next? And Notre Dame's always got somebody. That's kind of who they are. Donovan is back, and he's chaos in the middle of the field. He's always causing havoc somewhere. But Notre Dame's defensive midfield unit has gotten increasingly thinner, which, I mean, it's usually how it happens. I mean, as usually you go as that group goes, and the deeper you are there, the better your team is. And it's kind of gotten increasingly thinner the past couple of years. Georgetown usually always has some names there as well, maybe not as kind of big names they've had in the past. So I think those, it's kind of cliche to say, so goes the defensive midfield. How your defensive midfield plays, that's going to define how you win. But I think in this kind of game, that's probably the case. Face-offs, we'll see. Notre Dame does have two options, and the Spano, the transfer, and then Diaz-Matos, the true freshman. Georgetown kind of runs Ross Prince out there all the time. Maybe that's since went back, but yeah, I think it's an interesting game because I think it's a lot of questions. I think it's a pretty cloudy sort of picture, which is usually the case in these early season games. But with how much has changed for Notre Dame, how much they've turned over, and for Georgetown, there is a lot of good key pieces back. But as we've talked about, the real question with them is the Connor brothers and their impact and how they can kind of change that offense. So I think it's a tough one to kind of picture. I would lean under. I think it's probably a lower scoring game. 1.5 is. Do you think Georgetown wins?
I mean, I do.
Okay, then yeah. In that case, 1.5. You might as well just pick who you think is going to win the game. If you think Georgetown's going to win, then yeah, I would. I don't know. I think I'd probably pick Georgetown. I don't know. It's a really tough one to call. It's not the first road game for Georgetown, which is good. That's always a important factor.
I think the Penn was a good opponent. I don't know if they obviously can't do what Notre Dame does at Notre Dame's level, but they kind of do have the tough defense and kind of made Georgetown work for it. Just a good game. Obviously, they probably would have liked to have played all the games that they had scheduled, especially maybe the Hopkins game. But for Georgetown, but it's still good to get that one in before the big test on the road, in South Bend. So I think it's going to be a really interesting game. I'd just like to see, Georgetown be able to at least come out strong. It's usually a pretty tough matchup between both teams, and Notre Dame's obviously got them the tournament last year, and but I don't know, I feel like it was something. So I think it'd be a really, really good one.
Who needs it more? Who needs it more?
I think Georgetown, because a key ACC win after a nice win over a team that may be a sleeper in the Ivy, and Penn, started out the season 2-0. That's some big chips in your pile, when it comes for Selection Sunday, especially if you're battling. Obviously, you're going to be battling any ACC team for an at-large because they all have to be, at-large teams. And I don't, as much as I have faith in Penn, I don't foresee them winning the Ivy tournaments. Maybe potentially being on that, bubble-ish list, especially if they play consistently as they did against Albany. So, getting a win against them is obviously in Georgetown's favor out here, and something they already got. And a win against Notre Dame would be huge, I think, for them in terms of a confidence boost and proof of concept type thing about the team, tough ACC opponent on the road, and just for we don't do bracketology, not for another 6 weeks, but looking forward, this is the kind of win that if you can pull it off, it's going to pay off a great deal. If you somehow don't win Big East tournament.
Yeah, I'm not worried as much about that for them as much as just kind of their ceiling. And yeah, I mean, this is. I think Notre Dame is the last. 2025, Georgetown beat Loyola, didn't make the tournament. Penn didn't make the tournament. Brown didn't make the tournament. They didn't beat anybody who made the tournament until they beat Duke in the first round. 2024, they beat Notre Dame, which is a huge win. After that, they beat Richmond, who lost in round one. They beat Penn, who didn't make the tournament. They lost to Denver that year, 10-8. 2023, they beat Princeton, who lost in the first round. Richmond didn't make the tournament in 24. Richmond did make it in 23. They beat them. They lost in round one. They beat Yale in the first round. 22, they beat Notre Dame, who didn't make it. In the out-of-conference, Georgetown, like a lot of Georgetown's best wins under Warren have been first-round games in the NCAA tournament. It's been being able to, beat Penn State at home in 24, beat Yale, go on the road and beat Duke. Those have been real, genuine, impressive wins. Because often they're kind of those 50-50 games, 7-10 seed, and they've got a pretty darn good track record in those games. I mean, the Cuse win, obviously, in the 21. Other than that, the Notre Dame win is kind of like their real, in the regular season, the Notre Dame win is, I think, by far there's not even really another win that's like even in the ballpark.
No, that was Notre Dame's only loss that year, right?
Yeah, and it's for sure. Yeah, I mean they handed one of the better teams we've seen. I mean, what, a top 2-3 team in the past decade plus. Their only loss. But even if you go back to 22, they beat Penn. That Penn team made the quarterfinals. They beat Notre Dame that year. That's the infamous Notre Dame team that missed the tournament. So the 22 win season, they have some pretty darn good, serious wins in there. And of course, that was their best team. 23, they beat Princeton, which is good, but Princeton, this was a weaker Princeton team that they lost in the first round. Yeah, there's just not really. That's the only time they've beaten a Final Four team. Let's put it that way. Under Warren, unless they beat Denver, they beat Denver in 2017. No. So I'm not saying Notre Dame's going to be a Final Four team this year, but I think Notre Dame's. They're probably, it's Notre Dame. They've made the quarterfinals in 14 of the past 16 something years. So you beat them, you can feel pretty safe for being a quarterfinal team. I think they kind of need to prove they can take down some of these elite teams. We know they can play with them, and we know that there is definitely a group of that teams in that 8-12 range we talk about. We know Georgetown can beat those teams. Can you beat the teams in, I would say, above their level, but they want to get into that level this year? That's the goal, is to make the Final Four, and Notre Dame is one of those teams you're going to be competing against to do that. So, yeah, I think they need this one would be the big one if they can get it. I mean, or Cuse. They play Cuse in the Dome. After that, there's some good opportunities. Ohio State could be a really good team. Richmond, definitely. I mean, this is the start of a really good stretch. Notre Dame, Ohio State, Richmond for them. I think we talked about 2-1 is probably the goal there. But yeah, Georgetown, not even they need to kind of prove they can go in there and against the heavyweight. And right now, Georgetown's like the king of the cruiserweights. They're like the best, but you got to go one step up against the baddest dudes out there. And usually the track record is they play them really darn close. If this game is really close and it's a great game and it's back and forth and Georgetown loses, that doesn't mean Georgetown's not going to be a great team this year. It probably does suggest that they'll have a really good team. but nobody's going to look at it and be like, man, that's great for Georgetown, man, playing Notre Dame close on the road. Like, and Warren I think Warren would admit that himself. Like, they're far beyond. We played them really close on the road. That doesn't mean that they should beat themselves up if they lose, but a win is a statement. It's a serious statement about where they're going this year if they can go on the road and beat them.
Oh, yeah.
They've done it. Hey, they've done it twice in a row. 22 and 24. So they've beaten them twice in a row at Arlotta. Going for 3. That'd be something. All right, Safe, where do you want to go next?
I mean, Hopkins, North Carolina. I mean, just we all know the numbers, but they are
share the numbers. What's the split home road in this route? Because it's pretty nuts.
Yeah. So here, Brett Sheets. I don't think last Hopkins went 06 to 2025
at home.
No, he did that too. But just in general, since 2006, the Eagles are 14-5. Absolutely just dominating. And it's I always try to.
But it's interesting. So many of most of those are at Homewood, aren't they?
Indeed, that's what I'm saying. I always try to make the how dominant that they are in North Carolina is. We always joke around but she has 4-bedroom, 3-bath, townhome, right off of University Park. But it's not even close. It's like Hopkins. The last Hopkins has won 3 of the last 4 games in Chapel Hill.
There you go.
2017, 2019. They lost in 2022, and then they won in 2024. But
so that means that would mean since 2016, so we do 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 22, 23, 24, 25. That's 9 games. The road team has won 8 of the last 9. If Hopkins has won 3 of the last 4 since Carolina beat Hopkins in 2016 at Homewood. Hopkins beat Carolina in Chapel Hill in 17. Carolina won at Homewood in 2018. Did Hopkins win in 2019 in Chapel Hill?
Yeah, that was the second of the 3.
Carolina won at Homewood in 2020. Carolina won in Chapel Hill in 22. Carolina won at Homewood in 23. Hopkins won at Chapel Hill in 24. Carolina won at Homewood in 25. So 8 of the last 9 in this game has been won on the road.
Yeah. So
pretty wild.
It's been an absolute fascinating series. And the only other win, obviously the Homewood win in 2006 for Hopkins, but the only other win besides the 3 that we just highlighted at Carolina was I think the first 4 or those East Rutherford games, the kind of IL productions. Yeah, that was the other one. The 2011 win in East Rutherford, New Jersey was Hopkins' 5th win since 2006. So 1 win at home, 3 wins at Carolina, and 1 win at a neutral site since 2006. Just absolutely pretty dominating performance on Carolina's part. But yeah, this does lead to some hope, how well Hopkins has played, at North Carolina. The 2022 game aside, that was kind of like a blowout, but 15-10. But yeah, the games are really close there, very feisty. I remember a couple of the haymakers thrown in a couple of those scuffles there. So always kind of really.
It's like the baggy shorts classic.
Oh yeah,
it's those mid 2010s games. It's peak baggy shorts era.
The and one era shorts. Oh yeah, no, I love it. But yeah, it's definitely something that gets both teams kind of very juiced up. It's just a very physical game. I remember I guess it was the 2020 24 one or 2019 one. It was rain soaked, mud was all over the place. It was just kind of.
That's been pretty common, yeah, and that's that rivalry. The Joey Sankey holding the ball for 3 minutes behind the cage.
Oh my God.
Is that still on YouTube? I want to see if that's still on YouTube. I imagine it is.
Is it Quint losing his mind?
Eamon. It was Eamon.
Oh, amen. That's sorry.
Can we get a shot clock, please, gentlemen?
What's going on here? Yeah.
Let me see if it's still on YouTube. Here we go. Joey Sankey behind the cage for 2 minutes. It is. This is from Shout Out Will, 9 subscribers. Uploaded this March 29th, 2014. Sankey gets. Oh, this is also the time period where these two teams' uniforms looked exactly the same.
Oh yeah, it's like
so you could never tell who was who. Like in this case, Hopkins is wearing white jerseys with the blue accents and blue shorts. Carolina is wearing all blue with accents. They both had those Nike accents on the sleeves, whichever. You could never tell who was who. Sankey gets the ball at 11.
They literally like inverse. I'm looking at the recap picture, and it's just absolutely like it's just like where Hopkins has blue, Carolina has white, and vice versa for
Just flip. They're like the same jersey. Sankey got the ball at 11:42 left in the fourth quarter with Carolina up 10-8. He did not move until, let's see. He finally dodges, and there's a timer on finally with 9:37 calls. So 2 minutes and 5 seconds. Petro is very upset, as you can see here. This is crazy. Like I think there's quite a few people listening that might be kind of new to lacrosse. If you've gotten a good time, this just kind of used to be how things were. A team in a 2-goal game with 10 minutes left in the fourth quarter could just burn 2 minutes. Literally could burn 20% of the game. Just standing behind the game. Different time. Safe. Who does it say more about if they win, Carolina or Hopkins?
Hopkins. If Hopkins wins, I'm getting 2023 vibes. I'm just going to totally flip the script. They're like, 11-3 is happening. Let's just go.
As soon as I was out,
just freed me. 100%. I think Carolina is still like a quality team. Definitely tournament caliber. Potentially a Final Four team if they can kind of put it together. But I think if Hopkins is able to shut down too much, but limit, young Petro and Duffy, and like a 13-9 win, I think would be definitely indicative of this team's what was, like I said, the strength of the 2 quarterfinal runs under Milliman, whereas I think it really felt like the defense was the engine of those teams and helped produce really exciting style of play, kind of very aggressive attacking D turns into offensive opportunities, and that does what felt like right now is the peak Milliman. Those are the 2 great years, and if they can have a good defensive effort and like I said, just contain them, keep those 2 from really popping off and turning the game into more of a shootout. And last year, 12-13 loss at Homewood, kind of disappointing. But anyone watched that game, Hopkins was really into it. I think it was just last minute and a half. Really, the game was kind of still in the balance, and I felt if they didn't already have that in their haven't had that experience against them, and there are members of this team that did win in Carolina in 2024. Not many, but there's enough that I feel like they're really going to be a surprise dark horse for if they win this one, then tournament appearance. It's not just a goal that should be something that should be bare minimum. If they lose this game, still don't think the season's ending, or anything. Still have plenty to play, but I think if Hopkins win here, it's definitely a statement of the Jays are definitely going to be better than expected at the beginning of the season, and in the top 10, probably ahead of schedule than most people would have planned for.
I agree. I do think there's not a lot riding on the line for Carolina. I won't say that, but I think it's a. I'll get to it. There's definitely stuff you want to see from Carolina in this game. I think. For Hopkins, kind of look at it more on the. Listen, if their defense could hold Carolina, could keep Carolina in check to win a tight game, that'd be huge. There's no question about that. I'm more interested though in how good can this Hopkins offense be? That's kind of what I'm interested in, because to start, they have looked quite promising. The Loyola game, especially, obviously, where I think Jules Henneberg, who called the game, said he thought it was the most explosive he's seen Hopkins offense in like a decade. Which I think that's probably the ceiling, I would say, because I guess 2019 is the last, like, when's the last time Hopkins finished top 10 in offensive efficiency? All right. Safe, take a guess. Last time they finished top 10.
2018?
2019.
2019.
From 2015 to 2019, Hopkins was 6th, 4th, 8th, 6th, and 10th in adjusted offensive efficiency. The flip side to that was in defense, they were 40, 52nd, 47th, 17th, and 49th. In the last 4 years, and 5 of the last 6, they've been right in that 11 to 20 zone. 11th in 2021, 18th in 2021, 11th in 2023, 11th in 2024, 17th in 2025, and right now they're 19th, but it's very early, very, very early days. As I like to say, I don't think the numbers have matured yet. I really won't kind of take a look at them until probably another 2-3 weeks. But, just in terms of raw offensive efficiency, 40.5% against Bobby Moe, 30% against Towson, 30% against Loyola. But if you filter out garbage time in that, because I don't think they scored a goal in the fourth quarter, and they still had some good looks in that fourth quarter, but they were up like 13-7 after the 3 quarters. So I thought the Loyola game was the best game they played offensively, to be honest. I know they probably scored Bobby Moe, but that Bobby Moe game wasn't,
Listen, I mean, they're putting it in the back of from the Hopkins game notes. The 43 goals Jays have scored through 3 games are the most through the first 3 games of the season for Hopkins since 2017.
And, yeah, go ahead.
No, I just when Jay scored 15 in back-to-back wins against Navy and UMBC, and then 14 in overtime against Loyola. So
and then what was
44?
I guess maybe this is a great. What was the next game? The Princeton game.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the most epic moments.
Adam in the stands, just DMing us. Zach Courier is palming the ball.
I wanted an investigation on the Princeton Tigers immediately. Thumbgate. Oh my God, jeez.
Thumbgate, man. Oh man, what a time! What a time. But yes, here's the thing.
Me making them third just for that game.
I think they were ranked third. They were ranked third in the country.
I was like, yeah, look,
I don't think you were out of your seat.
The greater.
I have the country on my side. Oh man, I wonder what's this, because I think it was our good pen Fieldy Sick who emailed or DM'd me about this or emailed me about this the other day. He was like, "Who would you poll on Hopkins' team?" And I was like, I'd pull Collison for sure. I'd pull Eiler for sure. I'd pull Brooks English for sure. And then I said, I actually kind of asked myself, would I just pull the entire first midfield? Because they're all really freaking good and they all kind of need a pull. But then I'm like, I feel like you got to pull Chevette because you kind of need. He's not Garrett Degnan, but also he still can shoot it, and you kind of need a guy. You need the pull to like stretch out against that kind of shooter. But what we're seeing is teams are pulling Eiler for sure and Collison for sure. But you've been mentioning Jimmy Ayers, and he's been drawing a pull at times.
Jimmy. Yeah.
And so if Ayers is getting a pull, and Collison's getting a pull, and Eiler's getting a pull, and then you have to pull Chevette, that means you can't pull English or Rawson, which is not great. Considering English has elite speed, and has racked up 4 assists against Loyola in that game. Had 2 assists. He's got, for the season so far, 7 assists in 3 games. So that gives you an idea of what he can generate for you. Rawson's putting up big numbers. They have an ability, even if maybe they don't have a standout elite guy, though Collison seems to be suggesting that he could be elevating his game to that kind of level. First team All-American. What we've been waiting for him to do for his entire career, basically. Because he came in very good, and he's kind of stayed very good. But we've always been wanting to see that next level. Looks like it's possible. They pose a lot of problems for you. I mean, they can really get you off balance and feeling. I mean, they can really tilt things against you with the number of guys they have who can make plays. And so this is a game where, against the Carolina defense that, last year they were known sort of as the no-name defense, and they better than the sum of its parts. But I think that kind of played to their advantage degree, because now they have Peter Toman, who they lost last year. He's come back, but he's kind of he's been rotating as a fourth pole. So they've got Carolina's got some real depth on that side of the ball, on the defensive end. And maybe individually none of them are elite, like first team All-American, but they're all really good. There's no real weak link, I don't think, in that long pole group. And Petro's had them, I think, for a couple years, playing really well together. They play good team defense. And so I think this is an indicator game into the ceiling of the Hopkins offense. If they can go in there and play a shootout type game against UNC, which, to be fair, they did play last year at Homewood, but that was before Melendez got hurt, and then everything just toppled like house of cards. That would say something, I think. Maybe even if they don't win, about the potential ceiling of that offense. For Carolina, I do think it says more about Hopkins. Carolina's going to be favored. They're minus 2.5. But they put up 43 combined against High Point, Iona. Both of those teams were just out of their league. The Jacksonville game, we saw them win 11-10. And it's another one of those, I think, games where we're kind of looking for, all right, who's going to break through this pack? And who's going to sort of solidify themselves as, because I don't think that first midfield that they have is totally solidified yet. I know they're playing the freshmen on like all one line by themselves, and they got some of the more experienced guys. I think by the end of the season, that's going to shuffle, and they're going to settle on who they think of those 6 is. Maybe they stick with it, but I don't get the vibe. And so, Gary Merrill played a really good game against Iona. He had 2 goals and assists, kind of his first, sort of big-time contributions. Andrew Price had a good game against Iona as well. Suchek seems like the guy who so far is popping. He had a hat trick against Iona. He had 2 goals and 2 assists against Jacksonville. They need that third guy with Duffy and Petro for sure. It's depth too, but it's also, there needs to be a go-to guy from the midfield who you can, as we always talk about, the shot disparity with them, distribution, I should say. I think you need a third guy who you feel really comfortable getting his share of shots, and another guy who could, say, get 5 to 6. And if it's a game where Duffy and Pedro are so quiet, yes, you want Duffy to pass more and set everything up. I agree. But I do think you need, from the midfield, you need to be able to be two-dimensional into how you're attacking teams. They've got a great behind-the-goal presence. They're like the inverse of Maryland that we've been talking about. Maryland lacks the behind-the-goal presence, but they can really kind of hurt you atop and kind of from the wings, because they'll invert and they'll get you off balance, and they'll spin that ball through X, and they'll just kind of break you down over these long possessions. Carolina's got a great behind-the-goal presence with Duffy, maybe the best in the country. And then when he draws the attention of the defense, he gives it to Petro, and it's, as I like to say, 8-7-7 cash now. But they need more of a midfield top dodging presence to really have great field balance and be able to hurt other defenses. And so I think this is just another one of those games that's a test of that. Against Jacksonville, it was, Suchek played really well. Brevin Wilson had a hat trick. So like guys did chip in, but overall the offense was a little, 11 goals, won in overtime. You kind of expected a little bit more, I would say. This is just a kind of another test of that. I think of where, can they develop the depth and, identify the other pieces throughout the lineup. If Suchek goes out there and has a hat trick, it feels like he'd solidify himself as a real guy. If it's another game where things are kind of quiet, or Duffy and Petro kind of have to carry too much of the load, who knows? Duffy was dominant a year ago against Hopkins in their 13-12 win. Duffy, and last year, 10 of Carolina's 13 goals were from Duffy and Petro in this game. And a lot of that was Hopkins. Just they lost the matchup with Scott Smith. Carolina put a lot of picks in there. They got Duffy freed up, and Hopkins didn't have an answer. I imagine that would have to be the focus for Kester in this matchup. So we'll kind of see. Also worth noting, this is the matchup of the two, I believe the two top 2 ranked goalies in this incoming class.
Mm-hmm.
Carolina's freshman goalie Josh Marcus, his dad played at Johns Hopkins, so there's kind of interesting family connection there. Dash Lambety's had a really, I know you say other Hopkins fans are really being encouraged by what he's done. Carolina, interestingly, that neither guy, they only faced total 14 shots against Iona, but Marcus saved 20%. 3 goalies played for Carolina against Iona. In the High Point game, 3 goalies played again. Marcus wasn't great in either of those. Kent Good, who was the kind of sort of next guy, kind of not incumbent with John Fricaro leaving, but he was John Fricaro's backup last year. He's played a little better. Might be interesting. I wonder if we see multiple goalies for Carolina on Friday. I thought Marcus was pretty good in the Jacksonville game. But, he hasn't been above 50% in any of the games he's played so far. Maybe leaving the door open there. That's kind of an interesting thing to watch for. I think both of those guys have great long-term potential, but Lamety's kind of more solidified the gauge for Hopkins so far than Marcus has. And then face-offs, we'll see. Joe Hobart had a nice start to the year for Hopkins. Got picked up the injury. We haven't heard much. Didn't look great. He was in crutches, I think, in the handshake line. Maybe it was just a bad, sprain or something like that, swelling. I think that's probably what you hope for, and not a fracture, something like that. But I would say his participation is probably dicey. And UNC has Brady Wambach, who could win a game, by himself. So a lot of interesting angles for this game. Maybe the goalie. It figures you bet on Carolina to probably dominate faceoffs in this game. For Hopkins, it's it has to be like a mitigation. Just get to 40, 45, somewhere around there. But maybe goalie play could be the swing. If Carolina's kind of got multiple guys who might be running out there.
Game on your mind?
I guess we should do Maryland Princeton. Maybe. We got Maryland Princeton, Cuse Harvard, and Cornell Denver. Which of those do you want to do?
Let's go Maryland Princeton. Just because I was at the Princeton game. We both watched the Maryland game. Both teams, I couldn't say. We already discussed 9-0 record Maryland has against Princeton last 9 games. I think Tillman has won 8 of those 9. I think the one was before he had taken over. But after the Hughes game, I don't think many Terps fans are jumping ship. I think a little bit of hey, it still needs a little bit of seasoning on the offense before they kind of really find out who they are and how best to play together. Princeton, horrible first quarter, pretty bad first half, 9-3. First quarter was just
nothing else you can say. Nothing else you can say.
Absolute, like I couldn't watch it. Just like absolute domination. It just kind of seemed like just lifeless. The defense was not. They had to go to the zone, otherwise probably, Penn State could have maybe dropped to 25 if they stayed man the entire game. Thought that going to zone definitely did help to slow down Penn State's momentum, kind of get Princeton a little bit back into the game. But we always kind of talk about with Crosse, especially if you let a team get that burst or that surge, kind of like Tour de France type thing. It's just the amount of work that you need just to get back. That they don't have. Then that teams can not like coast the rest of the way, but like maybe you claw back to 2 or 3, but that burst was so big that they're able to like essentially have a bit of a cushion the rest of the way. It kind of happened with the Penn State game, even though they kind of did claw back a little bit. Like Penn State never really felt was like totally out of it or like losing control of the game. Once they kind of figure out the zone, they were able to put on those last 3 goals to really put a little bit of separation. So how Princeton starts this game, I wonder if they stick with the zone early on, if they kind of similarly lose a little bit, but if that, I think that's just the greatest sign of defensive trouble.
You cannot start. I'm sorry. If they start with a zone, I'm calling the police.
Especially with so much talent there.
It's the second game of the season, and as you said, you're Princeton. Bro, when you go to zone to start the game, it's officially the guys. We have no answers right now. It's the ultimate sound the alarm, wave the flag. We have big issues. You can't do that in game 2.
No.
Exactly. I imagine they will show the zone at some point. Just because it did work pretty well. Now, I would say this. There are certain teams who can run a zone really effectively, and they kind of do it often. They're really good. Penn State's the best example. Penn State can run a freaking half from zone and make it work, but they really work on that thing. They have that thing dialed in. It is a component of their defense. Princeton, I just don't I'm sure they've worked on it, and again, it works. But how much of it working was? It's probably the first time Penn State's really seen zone defense the entire year. How much has Penn State really worked on their zone offense, especially in game action? So no, Princeton's got to go man to man. But I think this gets into my question, which was, what do you need to see more from Princeton's defense or Maryland's offense?
Oh, Princeton's defense. I don't think Maryland's offense. I think they just got to figure. I do think they need a dude that could, maybe that's Stodmeyer, right? Saying his name right, just someone who could beat their guy, cause that separation, get the defense to collapse, because they have the sophisticated offensive players. They know how to pass the ball. They know how to find the open guy. Kind of said maybe they sacrifice the good for the perfect in terms of
I think they need to shoot more.
Yeah, exactly, and it's just more aggression, maybe going to the rack, causing defense to either collapse or slide, opening those passing lanes. And because I think they were trying to do that with Syracuse. Why I always say the sophisticated passing is kind of what's going on in Crosse. The worst short stick defenseman hunting as well, switching and picking until you get
positionless offense.
Exactly, it's beautiful. I love it. You also need a dude who can just. Ideally multiple. Kind of why I kept talking about the Penn State Princeton game. It just felt like every guy on Penn State offense could beat their guy or at least get a step. to cause like a slide or a collapse defense, and then like I said, it just opens up so much more. So I feel like with Princeton D, like it said, like you can't bank on going zone the rest of the way to 2 games into the season.
No,
So it's just like, and we always say like, yes, having a top 10 adjusted offense efficiency is important, but we don't really kind of even think of you as a real Final Four contender unless you have also a matching D in the top 10 or 15, and it has to be. So you can't just have like, essentially just Yale. If you're just like have an elite offense with like an elite, a subpar defense, like you're not really going anywhere. So for me, I don't. Maryland has a dominant streak here. Listen, they also had a dominant streak against Syracuse. That didn't mean anything, but a win on the road, bit of a stretch, I think. But like you got, and Maryland's not the kind of team that's trying to drop like 20 on your head. You know what I mean? Like, so it's already a team that like, is going to be a challenge defensively, but you gotta just do better than with that first half we saw, especially that first quarter. So for me, it's like Princeton D, like put some goals, of course, up and keep it really competitive, but like you just can't have falling flat on your face right off the gate second game into the season. It just for me, it's got to be Princeton D. Got to see something.
Yeah, they have to. And you said it, and I guess that's the thing. It wasn't one specific thing; it was everything. You just they got to play better. I do think I need to see more. I need to see more physicality from that defense. I just think they don't. I don't think they play. I don't think they play good enough on ball. Yeah, it's the bottom line. I just do not think they play enough physical. And that's the same with Maryland. Like you got to make them. You got to make them earn it. Syracuse made them. Syracuse was physical with that Maryland offense. Syracuse defense set the tone, and I think for Maryland's offense, it caught them off guard. I think the Yale guys, Johnson and Lyons, I think that was a different level of. Listen, the Ivy League, many things has many many qualities about it. The defending national champion, obviously. The quality of on-ball physical defense in the league it can be lacking at times. It's a bit of the separator between the leagues, the ACC and the Big Ten, the Ivy, is the quality of defense and but especially just the physicality with which the teams in the ACC and Big Ten play defense compared to the Ivy League. That's the big thing. Cornell got there to a degree in the championship run, and that was a big thing for them. I haven't seen it from Princeton, and so if Maryland's got talented guys, so if you're going to give them space and you're not going to be on them physically, they have dudes who can run by you. It's not that they don't have dodging threats; it's that do they have guys who can win the 1% to 2%, extra gear that separates it for you. Against Cuse, they didn't have that. The way Princeton played against Penn State, it wasn't about 1 to 2 extra percent. It was flat out they just were not on it enough to make it happen. And that's got to be better against Maryland. I think for Maryland, I definitely agree that it's. I talked about this on Saturday. They need to shoot the ball more. This has been a recurring theme. They sometimes just seem afraid to shoot the ball from 12 yards. Like if you get the ball and you can shoot from 12 yards and you've got, I'm not saying force it, but like it also can't just be you only shoot the ball when literally you like can step in, crow hop, and like you got to be willing to stretch the defense. Against Syracuse, they just would not stretch the defense, and so Cuse could just pack the middle of the field in that game was crammed. Like Syracuse was just completely clogging the middle of the field, and that's why those interior passes that Maryland loves to make, none of those were there because Syracuse had no reason to respect anybody shooting the ball on the perimeter.
Absolutely,
you got to shoot the ball, and I know and this is to me where Tillman's got to let the horse play a little bit. The index has shifted to being too concerned about what could happen the other end of the field. And that made sense with the team the past couple of years when they didn't maybe have an explosive offense, and so you had to really make sure that your defense wasn't put in not advantageous positions because your defense was how you won games. This team, with the talent they have, can win games both ways. I think this team has the offensive players and personnel to win games with its offense. And if that's the case, and I believe that, and I think they believe it too, at least I hope they do, then the concern can't be, well, what if a guy shoots it into a stick and we give up a layup, a fast break the other way? It'll happen. You should have the offense to get it back. In 2023 and 2024, and to a lesser extent 2025, no, you probably didn't have the offense to get it back. So I get it. I get being worried about fast breaks and giving up opportunities the other way. I see that. That's not the case with this offense. I think this offense, I strongly believe the personnel is not the issue, and that doesn't mean the coaching has failed. It just means they need to figure out the solutions and be willing to give these guys the space and the opportunities to kind of do their thing. And so if they're willing to take their shots against Princeton, I think it's going to open up the interior, and then the passing will be there and things like that. So I think it's just every time with Maryland you hear they need an alpha or they need to win matches. Like, yes, that is part of it. That's one component, but it's a multifaceted thing. It is not just some guy needs to run by his dude. Like, again, against the Cuse game, they had 8 unassisted goals. So there were guys running past their man. Like, 8 times they dodged their man to score a goal. The problem was that they weren't also doing other things. Cuse was never, ever, ever, in that game, it was obvious. Cuse was never going to slide in that game. Ever. They were like, we will give up unassisted goals every time if that means that we don't have to slide and start giving up layups. And so what Maryland needs to do was Maryland needed to shoot more from the outside and really make Syracuse think about something else to where they're like, I guess we have to, And Maryland never got to that point where they made Cuse think, at least we have to. And Cuse was just like, we just got 2 stops and then you scored an unassisted goal. All right, that's fine. 2 stops, scored an unassisted goal. That's fine. We're completely fine with that calculus. And they were right, and that's why they won the game. And so that's for me for Maryland. And again, like we talked about on the pod, I got to give Cuse a lot of credit for this. On the pod we talked about last week where I didn't think Cuse could kind of do the Michigan type game plan of taking a bunch of time of the clock. I'm like, if they try and play that way, it's just the dome like crazy. In the second half, that is basically exactly what they did. Like in the second half of that game, let me see if I can find it. Maryland, Syracuse. In the second half for the game, Syracuse's time to first shot was 44 seconds. They're usually under 40. Syracuse's average possession length was 55.5 seconds. In the second half, 54 seconds and 51 seconds time to first shot for Syracuse. They were taking up over 50 seconds of the shot clock before they took their first shot in the second half. In the third quarter, in the second half, Syracuse average possession was over a minute for the entire second half. So Syracuse had 15 possessions, and they were basically they took up at minimum 15 minutes on offense. Half of the second half, they took up when they were on offense. I didn't think Syracuse would be able to do that, and they did. It was a really masterful performance by Syracuse. I mean, it's been talked about, but like it was in so many ways the best they've played in years. It was an incredible one. All right, Safe. Anything else? Do you want to do some picks and get out of here?
Yeah, do some picks.
All right. Johns Hopkins at North Carolina in Chapel Hill, 5 p.m. Eastern on Friday. UNC is -2.5. The over/under is 23.5.
I think I'm going Hopkins wins outright.
He's back.
Let's just go. I feel it. I feel something. Yeah, it's starting to percolate. I look at it. I look at the stats. What matches from 2023 and 2024? Dash is great. Like I had top, I think 6 or and 8 adjusted goal. Yeah, 9. Sorry, 9 and 3 for 2023 and 2024 respectively. That corresponded with a 6th and 4th defensive efficiency. So Hopkins right now is 8th. I mean, obviously he's like still young in the season. Defense is now 10th. Like I said, I feel like was their engine for those 2 quarterfinal runs. The defense, good, strong goalie play, pretty decent face-off. They're actually a little bit better than both 2023, 2024 years. A little off of last year is such a great season with Callahan. But I think this is the recipe for, the kind of teams that Milliman really seems to do well with. They have really energetic D, like get on the ball, aggressive, strong goalie play. And now with an offense that, could be, pretty potent. I'm pretty excited. Again, Carolina's going to be tough, but, just Hopkins' recent success there. Last year, only, 1 game, 1 goal loss. I think the Jays surprised people and worried about Wambach kind of dominating.
Yeah.
But if Hopkins can just keep it 45-55 and Dash plays pretty solid at goal, I think that could kind of, be recipe for Hopkins upset. So, yeah, I'm going with Jays.
Over under 23.5.
I think if Hopkins wins, it's going to be under. So I'm going to go under. Maybe like a 12-10, 12-9 type of win. I think that's Milliman's. That's the way the Jays win. They can limit Petro and Duffy to like maybe like 6 combined points, and other Carolina Stars aren't able to really produce. I think that's the key for Hopkins to win.
I'm gonna go Hopkins plus 2.5. I'm not sure that they win. I could see UNC winning by a goal or 2. If this goes to, if this goes up any further, I think this is right about where I feel comfortable. With it. I'll go over. I think there'll be goals in this game. I think Carolina's gonna win faceoffs, and I think they'll have plenty of opportunities. I also think Carolina's goaltending situation could be a little shaky potentially. And so I'm feeling Hopkins cover. Not sure about a win. I can definitely see Carolina win this game, by 15-13 type scoreline. So I'll kind of hedge my bet there. But I will say over. Princeton at Maryland. Maryland is minus 2.5. Over under 23.
I think Maryland bounces back. Maryland wins. I think Maryland covers.
I agree. I will go 23. I'll go over. I think it's gonna be nice. It's gonna be nice outside. Good weather. I could see 14-10, 15-11, something like that. I think Maryland will. I think Princeton plays better. I'm just not sure. It's on the road, first road game. It's always tough. I don't know. I'm just iffy about that defense still. Let's do Syracuse is minus 3 on the road at Harvard. Over under is 26.5.
I am concerned, if I was a Cuse fan, of a little bit of a hangover effect after that such a monumental win over Maryland on the road. A Harvard team that remembers last year, probably circled this game on their schedule. But you've seen Princeton circle games on their schedule, and then like they get a little too juiced up, and then it doesn't go the way they planned. I think Harvard covers, but I think Cuse wins. This is a classic safe special, right? Bet on both teams. But Cuse win, and I think at minus 3, I think Harvard's offense improves. Like face off, keep it a little bit close, and I think just being juiced up for this game, I think they cover.
I think I agree. Any lower than this, no. This is about exactly where I feel comfortable with saying that. I do think Cuse wins. Listen, if this is the face-off story of the past couple of years, it's not going to happen a third time. Like Syracuse is not going to win 80% of the face-offs and be in a one-goal game for like the third time with these guys. But I think Harvard's got more potential answers there. I like the way their defense is playing, so I'm actually going to go. I might go under here. Might be more of a game. I think Cuse has shown they can win that type of game. So I'll go under, but I think in Harvard covers. But I do think Cuse still wins. All right, let's do. We talked about Georgetown-Notre Dame. I think you said you're taking Georgetown plus 1.5.
Actually, Wednesday hot take for everybody. Georgetown wins.
I have no clue what I don't know. I mean, I got to take Georgetown, right? I've been on the Georgetown. I have to do it. I have to be an honest, ethical, adult.
Ethical journalism.
I have to be ethical. This has to be adult here. I have to take Georgetown. Cornell, Denver. Cornell -3 over under 22.
What? Forgive me. Say the numbers again.
Cornell, Denver. Cornell's -3 in Peter Barton Stadium, and it's an over under 22.
I say Denver and the under.
Denver win. Denver win. Denver outright.
Yeah. Denver outright and the under.
I'm going. Cornell. They dominated faceoffs in that game against Albany. Much better goal, and it looked a little. It was a little. That was a game right to the end. I mean, it was the first game for Cornell. Road game, obviously, you like to get that, but going on the road again to Denver, I don't know. I think Denver's defense is playing really well. I think I might vibe with that. All right, folks. There you go. That's the pod. Should be a great week. Again, we got games, isolated games from Friday through Sunday. A big slate early on Saturday as usual. Should be a bunch of fun. We will be back Saturday, same time as usual. Early evening, happy hour, I guess. Grab yourself a drink. Come hang out with us. YouTube.com/lacrosse commission for the power hour. It's a bunch of fun. If you are watching this video on YouTube, make sure to hit the like button when it goes up. Subscribe if you have not already. If you're listening to it the old way, audio podcast, Ryan will have it up tomorrow, probably sometime in the afternoon, evening. And Safe, I think that's everything.
Absolutely. Happy Lent, everybody.
Stay hydrated, friends. Warming up. Thank you, Mr. President. Take care.